Imagine for a second that the world around you, the chair you're sitting in, the traffic you were stuck in this morning, even the mood your boss is in right now.
Right.
Imagine none of that is actually rigid. What if I told you that reality isn't this fixed, immovable object that you just have to somehow survive?
Which is how most of us feel, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. But what if it's actually a game?
Mm.
And like any game, what if it has specific mechanics, maybe even cheat codes, that if you know them, allow you to actually win?
It's a it's a really provocative thought. I mean,
Yeah.
we usually move through life feeling like an NPC, a non-player character.
Yeah.
We have absolutely no control over the level design. We just react to obstacles, try to dodge bad luck, and sort of hope the game engine is kind to us.
Just trying not to get a game over?
Exactly. But the premise we're looking at today flips that entirely on its head. It suggests that you aren't just playing the game. You are, in a very real, mechanical sense, designing the level as you walk through it.
Which sounds fantastic, but also, let's be honest, a little bit like The Matrix or just wishful thinking. I mean, my rent is definitely fixed. Gravity seems pretty consistent.
Very stubborn things.
Right. But we aren't just pulling this out of thin air. Today, we are doing a deep dive into a guide from life lessons that synthesizes some pretty heavy hitters.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about concepts that bridge quantum physics, ancient hermeticism, and modern psychology.
It's a fascinating mix of sources. And the mission here is to walk through the 5 rules laid out in this material. The claim is bold, right? That these rules can turn you from a passive player into the controller of your own life.
And we should clarify.
Yeah, I want to be clear right off the bat. This isn't just abstract philosophy for the sake of an interesting dinner conversation.
No, not at all.
This is framed as a highly practical toolkit, whether it's your career, your relationships, or just your general sense of well-being. These rules are meant to be applied by you, the listener, today.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because controlling reality is a massive promise. And I'm going to need some evidence before I completely buy into it.
Fair enough.
So the guide starts with a foundational rule that kind of sets the stage for everything else. Rule number 1, reality is malleable.
Right. This is the bedrock. If you don't accept this, the rest of the rules just won't make sense. The core concept here is that reality is not fixed. It literally changes based on the observer.
Which sounds like magic.
It does, but what's fascinating is how the source material uses the famous double-slit experiment from quantum physics to ground this whole idea.
I've heard of that, but for the listener who, hasn't brushed up on their high school physics lately, can we break that down? How does physics prove reality is changeable?
So in really simple terms, the experiment showed that subatomic particles, the building blocks of literally everything, they exist only as a wave of probabilities until they are measured.
Yeah, until they're measured.
Yeah. Before you look at it, a particle isn't in one specific spot. It's basically everywhere at once.
Yeah.
It's just a cloud of potential. It is the act of observation that collapses that probability into a specific, measurable reality.
So just by looking at it.
You change it. In other words, the building blocks of our universe behave differently depending on whether or not someone is watching them.
Okay, so at a subatomic level, things are fluid. I get that. Particles are weird.
Very weird.
But I'm not a subatomic particle. I'm a person driving a car or sitting at a desk. Does this actually apply to the macro world? Because if I close my eyes, my desk doesn't turn into a cloud of probability.
Right.
It's still hardwood. I'll still stub my toe on it.
That is the big leap, isn't it? But the source connects this to hermeticism and even modern neurology to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Hermeticism has this ancient principle: as within, so without.
Meaning
Your internal landscape shapes your external landscape. And biologically, we actually know this is true through something called the Reticular Activating System, or RAS, in your brain.
Oh, the RAS, that's the filter, right. I've read about this in relation to focus and productivity.
Exactly. Your brain is bombarded with millions of bits of data every single second. Sights, sounds, temperatures, how your clothes feel on your skin.
Everything.
Right. If you processed all of it consciously, you'd short circuit. So the RAS is like the bouncer at the club. It decides what gets past the velvet rope into your conscious awareness.
It filters out the noise.
Yeah. And here is the kicker. It filters based on what you deem important or what you hold to be true.
So if I walk around believing people are generally mean, my RAS is basically going to let in every single frown and rude comment, but block out all the smiles.
Precisely. If your internal state is that the world is hostile, Your RAS literally filters out the kindness and highlights the hostility just to prove you right.
Wow.
You are physically perceiving a different reality than the optimist standing right next to you. It's not just a mood, it's a fundamental data processing issue.
So it's not just that thoughts are things in some mystical sense. It's that thoughts are literal instructions for what my brain allows me to see. The source used a metaphor here I thought was really strong. Every thought is an instruction to the universe.
Which is a heavy responsibility when you think about it. I mean, thousands of thoughts rush through your mind every single day. Most of them are totally on autopilot.
Just background noise.
Right. But if every single one is a tiny command line in the code of your reality, then dwelling on fear or doubt isn't just unpleasant. It's actively counterproductive.
You're programming it.
You are actively instructing your brain, and if you believe the quantum angle, the universe itself, to give you more things to be doubtful about.
So if I'm walking into a meeting thinking, I'm going to bomb this presentation,
Yeah.
I'm basically placing a pre-order with the cosmic kitchen for a disaster.
Yes, you are. You're priming your nervous system to be anxious, which makes you stumble over your words, which then confirms the bias. The feedback loop is sealed.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. But the flip side is also true. When you focus on positive outcomes, you aren't just blindly hoping, you are calibrating your brain's filter to spot opportunities you would have otherwise completely missed.
You see the open door that the pessimist misses because they were staring at the floor.
Perfectly said.
Okay, that makes sense biologically. I can get on board with the RAS. But here is where I get a little skeptical. I can think I'm a millionaire all day long, but if my bank account says 0, reality feels pretty stubborn.
Sure.
How do we move from just thinking nice thoughts to actually changing the game?
That is the perfect setup for rule number 2. Because just thinking isn't enough. Rule 2 is you are both the observer and the creator. This takes us from passive observation to active engineering.
Right, and the guide brought up Vadim Zeland here and this concept of reality transurfing, which honestly sounds like a sci-fi novel.
It really does.
But the concept of the space variations was super interesting. Can you explain that for us?
Yeah, Zeland is great because he treats life almost like a giant script archive or a massive server. He suggests that infinite variations of your life already exist, like different tracks on a CD or different levels in a video game.
Okay.
You don't have to somehow magically create the outcome where you get the promotion. That outcome already exists in the catalog. You just have to tune your frequency to match it.
So it's less about building a house from scratch and more about like tuning a radio.
That's a great way to put it. If you want to listen to jazz, you don't build a jazz band in your living room. You just tune the dial to 98.5.
Right.
Zeland argues that your frequency is determined by your mental energy, and the way you tune that radio is through intention. The source makes a huge, huge distinction between desire and intention.
What's the difference? Because in everyday language, they sound exactly the same. Like, I desire a sandwich and I intend to eat a sandwich.
Huge difference in energy. Desire implies lack. If you want something, you are affirming that you don't have it.
Oh, I see.
Saying, I want to be rich, carries the underlying energy of, I am currently poor. It's a signal of absence.
It's focusing on the gap.
Exactly. Intention, however, is a cool, calm determination to have and to act. It's the difference between standing at a bus stop, just hoping the bus comes, and standing there knowing you're getting on the bus.
I see. One is passive longing, the other is active preparation.
Yes.
The guide used the analogy of writing code here. Visualization isn't just daydreaming, it's literally writing the script.
Exactly. And the nuance there is critical. The source emphasizes a very specific technique. You have to visualize things as if they have already happened.
Not the future.
Right. You don't visualize yourself getting the award. You visualize yourself holding it. You feel the weight of the medal in your hands.
Yeah.
You smell the room. You hear the applause fading out.
You're hacking the sensory input.
You are. You're shifting from a state of lacking, which instructs the universe that you don't have it, to a state of having. You are writing the code for the finished product, not the prototype.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because this leads into the mechanics of how we actually install that code.
Yes.
Because I can visualize holding the trophy all I want, but if my gut is knotting up with anxiety while I do it, it doesn't work. Which brings us to rule number 3, the subconscious mind.
This is the engine room. If your conscious thoughts are the captain shouting orders from the deck, the subconscious is the crew down below that actually steers the ship.
And they don't always listen to the captain.
Well, they do, but the source points out a fascinating flaw, or maybe it's a feature, of the subconscious mind.
That it's basically gullible.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It cannot tell the difference between a real event and a vividly imagined one.
That is just wild to think about. That's why we wake up sweating from a nightmare, right? The body thinks it's completely real.
Exactly. Your cortisol spikes, your heart races, your subconscious treats the monster in the nightmare as an absolute physical reality.
Because it doesn't know any better.
Right. The source references Joseph Murphy, who wrote The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. He uses this beautiful analogy of a garden.
Okay.
Your subconscious is this incredibly fertile soil, but it has no judgment. It doesn't argue with you. It doesn't say, hey, maybe this is a bad idea.
It just grows what you plant.
Exactly. If you plant weed seeds, negativity, fear, jealousy, it will grow a dense jungle of problems. But if you plant flowers, success, peace, confidence, that's what will bloom.
So the soil is completely indifferent. It just amplifies whatever you give it.
Entirely neutral. So the method to hack this is repetition plus emotion. You can't just mutter, I am successful 50 times while feeling poor and stressed out.
Because the soil gets confused.
It's a mismatch.
Yeah.
The subconscious picks up on the feeling, the emotion, much more strongly than just the words.
But wait, if I try to do this while I'm stressed at work, my brain naturally fights back. It says, no, look at this inbox. We are definitely not successful right now. The guide mentioned a very specific time to do this, the twilight state. Why is that so important? Why not just do it while I'm drinking my morning coffee?
You can, but your morning coffee mind is highly analytical. It's alert. It's ready to argue. The twilight state, that narrow window right before you fall asleep and right as you're waking up, is when your brain waves literally slow down into a theta state.
And what happens in theta?
In theta, the critical barrier between your conscious and subconscious is incredibly thin.
So the guard is basically asleep at the gate.
Exactly. The logical part of your brain that usually chimes in and says, this is silly, you're not rich, it's completely offline. So if you plant the seed then, it bypasses the guard and goes straight into the soil.
Oh, wow.
That's why scrolling through doom and gloom news right before bed is so incredibly destructive. You're literally programming your operating system with anxiety for the next 8 hours.
That is such a practical takeaway right there. Swap the doom scrolling for garden planting.
It changes everything.
But with these things, there is a trap here. I feel like whenever I try to focus really, really hard on something I want, I end up pushing it away.
Oh, yeah.
Like the more I want it, the further away it gets.
You've just hit perfectly on rule number 4. And this is the paradox that trips almost everyone up. Rule number 4 is the paradox of letting go.
Which seems completely counterintuitive. We just spent the last 10 minutes talking about focused intention, writing code, planting seeds, and now the rule is to stop trying.
It sounds totally contradictory, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But let's go back to Vadim Zeland and Transurfing. He talks about something called excess potential.
Okay, unpack that for us. What is excess potential?
Imagine you're walking along a balance beam, just a piece of wood that's laying flat on the ground.
Easy.
Right. You just walk across it, no problem. Now take that exact same beam and put it between 2 skyscrapers, 100 stories up in the air.
Nope, absolutely not.
Right. Suddenly you can't move. You're shaking. But why? The physical task is exactly the same. It's just putting one foot in front of the other. But the importance you've attached to it has created massive resistance.
Because the stakes are too high, I'm frozen by the fear of falling.
Exactly. When you are desperate for an outcome, you create excess potential. You are basically screaming at the universe, I need this or I die.
And the universe doesn't like desperation.
It creates a balancing force. That energy of needing creates a pushback that pushes the object of your desire away just to restore equilibrium. It's like trying to grab a bar of wet soap. The harder you squeeze, the faster it shoots out of your hand.
So desperation actually blocks the flow.
Think about it in dating. We've all seen this play out.
Oh, absolutely.
The person who is utterly desperate for a partner repels everyone they meet. But the person who is happy, self-sufficient, and just doing their own thing, they attract everyone.
That is so true. The source used that gardening analogy again here, which I really like. Digging up the seed.
It's the perfect visual. You plant that seed in your subconscious garden during your twilight state. You do the work. But then, because you're anxious, you dig it up every hour to see if it's sprouting.
Is it working? Is
Yeah.
it working yet?
Exactly. And what happens to the seed?
You kill it. It never gets a chance to take root because you just won't leave it alone.
Exactly. You have to trust the physics of the soil. Letting go isn't about giving up on your desire. It's about giving up the need to control the timeline.
That's a huge distinction.
You set the intention clearly, you feel it, and then you just release the grip. You move from a state of anxiety to a state of trust.
But that shift from anxiety to trust is really hard, though, especially if you have actual bills to pay or a deadline looming.
Absolutely.
It feels like if you don't worry, you aren't taking the situation seriously. Like, isn't worry a sign of responsibility?
That is the survival horror game mechanic we've all been trained on. We are taught to think that worry equals action. But the source argues that worry is just a catastrophic misuse of your imagination. You're actively visualizing what you don't want.
Setting the wrong coordinates.
Yes, trust is actually a signal of profound confidence. It tells your subconscious, I know this is handled. And that state of flow allows things to unfold in ways your conscious mind, which is actually very limited, might not have even been able to predict.
So we've planted the seed and we are trusting the process, but we still have to get up and go to work in the morning. We can't just sit on the couch waiting for the doorbell to ring with a giant check.
No, you definitely cannot.
How do we walk through the world while we wait? That brings us to the final piece, rule number 5. Act as if you've already won.
This really ties everything together beautifully. It draws heavily on Neville Goddard and his law of assumption.
Now, I can hear the listener thinking right now, wait, isn't this just fake it till you make it? Because that feels kind of fraudulent. Am I supposed to walk around lying to people about who I am?
The source is very careful to make a distinction there. Faking it is usually about tricking other people. You're putting on a mask so they think you're successful, while inside you feel like a total imposter.
Which is exhausting.
It is. Acting as if you've won is about internal alignment. It's not a mask you put on for others. It's a fundamental change in your own posture.
So it's about shifting your identity.
Yes. Goddard calls it living in the state of the wish fulfilled. Ask yourself, if you already had that promotion, how would you walk into the office this morning?
Probably a lot more relaxed, definitely less defensive. I wouldn't be trying to prove myself constantly in every meeting because I already know I have the job.
Exactly. You wouldn't be desperate. And that lack of desperation completely removes the excess potential we just talked about in Rule 4.
Oh, it all connects.
It does. By embodying the person who already has the thing, you naturally remove the resistance that's preventing you from getting it.
It's almost like you're gaslighting your own reality into agreeing with you.
In a way, yes. Because reality is a mirror. Going all the way back to Rule 1. It has no choice but to reflect that energy back to you. If you walk around feeling like a victim, the world shows you victimhood.
It gives you more reasons to feel like a victim.
But if you walk around with the calm confidence of a winner, the world starts organizing itself to match that frequency.
It closes the loop. It sounds so simple, but it obviously requires a massive amount of self-awareness.
It does. It requires you to constantly audit your own state, catching yourself and asking, am I acting from a place of lack right now or a place of having?
So let's zoom out a bit. We've covered a lot of ground today, from quantum physics to brainwaves to gardening. Let's recap the cheat sheet for the listener so they can actually go out and use this.
Sure. So Rule 1 is reality is malleable. Your internal state, filtered through your RAS and the observer effect, actually shapes the external world.
Right. And Rule 2, you are both observer and creator. Stop passively watching. Start tuning your frequency to the track you want using intention, not just desire.
Perfect. Rule 3, harness the subconscious. It's a non-judgmental garden. Plant the right seeds during that twilight state when the guard at the gate is asleep.
Rule 4, the paradox of letting go. Don't create excess potential by being desperate. Don't dig up the seeds to check on them. You have to trust the physics of the soil.
And finally, Rule 5, act as if you've already won. Embody the feeling of the result right now to close the gap between where you are and the reality you want.
So for the person listening to this, maybe they're stuck in a job they hate or they feel like life is just constantly happening to them. What is the very first step? Because this is a lot to take in at once.
The first step is to simply stop playing the NPC role.
Yeah.
Recognize that the game is happening whether you know the rules or not. You are creating your reality every single minute with your assumptions.
You're doing it anyway.
Right. Up until now, you might have been doing it completely unconsciously, letting fear or old habits write your code. But now you have the manual.
It completely shifts the locus of control. It's no longer the world is hard. It becomes, what instructions have I been sending?
Exactly. And that is incredibly empowering. But it also leaves no room for excuses. It means you aren't stuck. No matter where you are, you can start rewriting the code tonight. You can rewrite it in 5 minutes.
I love that. It's never too late to patch the software.
Never.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a challenge. We've talked a lot about how reality changes when you observe it differently.
Yeah. And here is a thought to take with you as you go about your day. If reality is a game shaped by your internal state, look at your life right now and ask yourself, what genre have you been playing?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Have you been playing a survival horror? A tragedy, just a boring procedural drama? You hold the controller? You have the cheat codes now? Is it time to press pause, go to the settings menu, and finally switch the genre to an adventure?
Check your game genre, everyone. That's it for this deep dive into the rules of reality. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next level.